Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. It's Colin, and today we're going to be doing a review of the brand new album from post-hardcore supergroup LS Dunes. Alrighty, guys, so this is the second full-length LP from post-hardcore emo alt-rock supergroup LS Dunes. LS Dunes is made up of frontman and vocalist Anthony Green, famously original founding member of Saosin, as well as coming to fame pretty much through the band Circa Survive. He's also done a number of solo things over the years. He also was in a band called The Sound of Animals Fighting, which I absolutely love. And yeah, just a classic, amazing vocalist in like the post-hardcore scene. Then you've got Frank Iero, famously of My Chemical Romance, on guitar. Travis Stever, also on guitar from Coheed and Cambria. And then the rhythm section is made up by Tim Payne and Tucker Rule from Thursday. So yeah, some heavy hitters for sure. This is their second album. Their first album was probably one of my absolute favorite albums of 2022. And I was so excited for this new album to come out. Number one, just for the fact that like they were doing more music, so it wasn't just a one and done thing like a lot of supergroups are, but also mainly just because I love their sound so much and I was so excited to just get a little bit more of them. But before we get into the music itself, let's talk about the physical release. So first off, I absolutely love the album artwork on this. This sort of like painted sort of feel to the front of just this rowboat in the middle of the sea with the shadowy figure right there. You know, whether you want to call that death or not, it's up to your interpretation, I guess. If you like read through some of the lyrics on this album, I think there's a lot of evidence that kind of points that way. On the back, you have just a continuation of that artwork. Again, like the painted on waves that are just really cool. You've got the track listing right up here. And I love just like the orange sky that they've done in the back. On the inside, you've got this really cool, just like view of the band members themselves. Very subtle, very minimalist. Again, I love that it's a gatefold, but they sealed this side right here. It shows a little bit more effort and dedication than just putting out like a normal, full envelope sleeve, or, I don't know what you call those, but like just the singular exterior sleeve. Now, they did come with a artistic inner sleeve, just with the lyric sheets printed over. And again, it's in violet, which, makes the name of the album. The album's name is Violet. So I find that really cool. And then I did order, on the initial pre-order, a signed slip of that internal image on the sleeve. So I'm probably gonna get this framed and hang this up somewhere. Again, I love this band so much. And then I've already put the record in in better quality interior sleeve, but we'll go ahead and pull that out so you guys can check it out. I think there are still pressings of this available. I don't know if this pressing in particular is still available, but I know you can still get copies of this through their website. But it's this really cool, like, dark mustard yellow and like black splash. I love the on the A side, you've got like this skull wearing like a crown of violets, which I think is really cool. And then on the B side, you've got like this flower. So absolutely love the imagery, the artistry here. Just like the amount of detail put into the entire record and the physical release. Sounds great too. No skips, no pops, no crackles. It's a good sounding record. Now, 5 songs on each side. They could have potentially expanded it into a double LP, but I don't think it was necessary. The sound quality is really good. So overall, I'm super pleased with the physical release of this. Cool, guys. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the music itself. Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, I've always absolutely loved the sound these guys have put out. I mean, obviously, with Anthony Green's vocals, you definitely get some heavy Circa vibes. You get some even like moments of like some of the stuff he did on Sound of Animals Fighting, where it's a little bit more like poetic and crooning. But like the backing of it kind of varies between traditional post-hardcore, a little bit of punk, some like melodic hardcore, and then just like straight up alternative rock. And I think, each band member definitely brings their style and flair to the project, and it just works super well. So it opens up with a track called Like Magic, And it starts off with just Anthony doing like an a cappella like intro, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I think Anthony Green is one of those vocalists where you either really, really like him or you're not like a huge fan. I definitely fall into the former camp. He's one of my favorite vocalists of all time. And I think the work that he's been doing on Ellis Dunes is some of his best work he's ever done. When the instruments do hit, it just works so well. After you get like this half minute or so long like a cappella intro, it's still a very like kind of mellow, laid back song, but most of the songs on this album are, even when they're going a little bit harder. The guitar starts off very like atmospheric and laid back. The drums and bass and like the rhythm section in general here is a little bit restrained, but it works super, super well. And then like once it does pick up a little bit and like the guitar kicks in a little bit harder, the drums kick in a little bit harder, and Anthony does some more of like his like light screams, harsher vocals, it just makes the whole like build up so much more worth it. This opening song also just really, really highlights the talent of the two guitar players in this band and on this album. And then it goes from there straight in without a break into Fatal Deluxe, which is the second song. This one, again, starts off with a bang. So you've got like the screams, the harsh vocals right away. It leans really hard into that like harder alt rock, hard rock sound, but with like the technicality that you come to expect in like some post-hardcore. And it's just such a fun song. It's probably like one of the hardest songs on the album, but just a great like ease into the bulk of the album from the intro track. You've got like these dueling guitars that get like almost kind of funky in some places. The vocals definitely have some more of that just kind of classic Circa Survive feel. And that's what I've always liked about this band is you can pick pieces of all the members' other bands out of the music, but it still wholly sounds like its own thing, which I just think is brilliantly done. And then after that is I Can See It Now. And this starts off with just a super like dirty, crunchy bass line. And I absolutely love that. Like, again, I think the rhythm section is what really holds this band together and just like gives it its own feel and its own sound. The bass here is just absolutely incredible. The drums come in really good as well. Not overly complicated, but super grounded, and they just keep the whole thing driving forward. The drums here are mostly just like toms and bass, but again, they give it this really kind of like deep, almost like stoner feel to it. The guitars off this are like kind of counteracting a little bit higher octave, a little bit more kind of like wailing sound. I love like the tuning that they did on this. It's so much. I think it just contrasts so well with the rhythm section. Anthony's kind of harmonizing with the guitar as well during the chorus is incredible, and there's like this really cool drum fill that just like backs it all up. I'm usually not a huge fan when the vocals and the guitar are like doing the same melody, but I think it works really well here. But overall, yeah, just an amazing song and probably one of my favorites of the year so far. Granted, we're not that far into the year, but still just a absolutely amazing track. From there, we get into the title track of Violet, and this is a little bit more chill, a little bit more laid back. You've got some like kind of chill finger tapping with the guitar mixed with some more like atmospheric kind of backing guitar on the rhythm. The vocals here are very like drawn out and crooning and like soulful for, you know, what Anthony Green does. I really, really love just the contrast that this album gives of like Anthony's sort of like soaring and sweeping vocal harmonies, which he's always been really good at, and then the more like grounded, like just rock driven instrumentation behind him. And there's a couple points in this song where Anthony does drop the octave of his vocals a little bit, which I always really like. I mean, his falsettos are great, his screams are great, but when he gets a little bit more like restrained and takes it down just like a notch, I think it works super well as a contrast to like his standard vocals. And again, even like the screams on this song are pretty like chilled and laid back. It's just an overall vibe. I love this track so much. To be fair, I love pretty much all the tracks on this album, but this one really stands out as just a great song to sit back and just kind of chill to. And then from there, we get into Machines. And this, again, starts off with like a really just deep and almost like fuzzy bass. Like it's got kind of like an 80s alt rock vibe to it, which contrasts super well with the more sort of floaty guitar work they do on top of it. The drums, again, here are super solid. Again, nothing gets super fancy. Like it's not the most intricate, drum work you've ever heard, but it just keeps the whole song and album grounded and just moves it along so well. And I think the work that they do, especially on this song, is just absolutely incredible. This is another song where we get some of the vocal and guitar melody kind of intertwining. And I think it works super well. You get a lot of that contrast of Anthony kind of going back between the clean and harsh screaming, which just, again, it works so well. You really have to enjoy that type of, like post-hardcore sort of like vocals. But if you do, I don't think it gets much better than this. Then we get into the second half of the album, which is probably my favorite song title on the entire album, which is You Deserve to Be Haunted. I just think it's such a funny, like, great concept. It starts off with a pretty heavy bang. Like, the intro is very like punk, post-hardcore, but then it kind of eases back into the chill sort of melodic vibes. You've got a cool little like bass-driven bridge right at the beginning as well, and the guitar work just comes in, and it's some more like tapping and wailing, and again, just the contrast works super well here. I do really like just the overall sort of shift between calm and chaos in this song. I mean, they do it really well on the entire album, but it's highlighted super well here. And then you've got Holograms, which again is very like bass focused in the intro. Kind of the whole song is driven by the bass here, which I love. I think the bass work on this album, just like the guitar or drum work, which I know I've said that like 4 or 5 times now, but it's just so good. And I like that they've got a couple songs where the bass really is like driving the melody forward, and the guitar work is more sort of just adding some backing tracks or some like atmosphere to the song itself. And the vocal harmonies on this song are just, again, incredible. I mean, I realize I've got a lot of the same commentary for like most of these songs, but I think each one of them is unique in its own way, but has a lot of the same thematic elements that you find on the album. And I love the whole vibe of this album. And at 10 songs, it's not too long, so they definitely don't overplay it. And there's enough distinction between the tracks that you don't feel like you're just listening to the same thing over and over again. After that is Paper Tigers, which was probably my favorite of the singles that they released. It's, again, just this like super hard driving intro that then settles into more of like a chill, laid back track, which I know I'm getting repetitive, but it's done in a different way here, I guess. And it's like the melody is just absolutely incredible on this song. Kind of classic 90s alt rock stuff. It's like fuzzy in some parts, some crunchy in some parts. The vocal harmonies, he hits this falsetto that he doesn't hit on like most of the rest of the album. And yeah, it's just super, super fun. Definitely like one of my favorite songs that I've been listening to over the past year, because I think this was released in like November, I want to say. So I've been listening to this song pretty regularly leading up to the release of this album. And then we get into the second to last song, which is Things I Thought Would Last Forever. And if I have any criticism on this entire album whatsoever, it's probably with this song. It's not a bad song by any means. It's just the one song to me that it doesn't like stand out. Like, there's nothing about it that really screams unique or like has anything that pulls me in. Still an amazing song. Still got that like kind of classic alt rock vibe. The outro here is really good, so I'll give it some credit for that for sure. And I still very much enjoy listening to it. Like it fits very well on the album. And then we end with Forgiveness. And I try not to get too into the lyrics on my reviews, but it's worth reading the lyrics for this one because it just ties in so well with the vibe of the song. Like the whole vibe to me, like the first thing that I thought of when I was listening to it was like coming out of a cave or coming from underground and just like walking into a field and being like bathed with sunlight and just having like that warmth and relief. It's a great way to end the album. It's super uplifting, super like joyful, super hopeful. And I think, if you know much about Anthony Green's personal journey or, like the lyrical themes of like this album and the past one, it fits so well as the closing track here. So overall, guys, like I absolutely love this album. It's probably going to be one of my favorite albums of the year. I don't know if it'll stay at number 1. I mean, as of right now, from what I've reviewed this year, it's number 1. But I have a hard time believing that it's going to fall out of the top 5. We'll see. There's a lot of music to be released this year. But right now, I'm feeling a super solid A on this album. I absolutely love it. If you haven't listened to it, if you haven't listened to Ellis Dunes, go check them out. Especially if you're a fan of the other 5 bands that these members are a part of. If you have listened to this album already, let me know what you think down in the comments. Always love talking about albums that I love. Please like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. Check out my Patreon if you haven't yet. And as always, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.